Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another 5 Guns video for you. Today I have a special guest, Mr. Clean. I'm just kidding. It's Mike from Mrgunsandgear.
Howdy, everybody.
And we're going to be hanging out today and talking about the top 5 guns that, shucks, we wish they still made. I guess that's the kind of the theme here. So we were kind of talking about like all of our favorite guns, and it kind of seemed like, you know, hey, some of the guns that we like, they just don't make anymore.
Right. Or if they make them, we can't get them.
Right.
So.
And that's kind of, you know, we've got a little bit of everything on the table here. There's always a wild card. So I guess we'll start on your end,
okay,
and work our way down.
Sure. So a couple guns I brought down for this one. First and foremost is going to be, this is the Polish, it's the barrel or the Archer. You'll see it imported in different configurations. So it's a 5.56 AK, basically modernized. So a lot of features to it. Of course, we have the collapsible stock here that you can move in and out to fit you. Top rail here that locks into place in several different positions, so it actually holds zero, unlike a lot of AK top rails out there. A cool feature about it is that it's actually hollow in the middle, so you can see through the sights even if you have an optic mounted on it. So it's true backup sights in that regard. It's basically is regarded as one of the most accurate AK variants really ever made. Unfortunately, this particular example of one, which is mine, it's not all that accurate. It shoots around 2 MOA even with match ammo. But for an AK, I'm not complaining about it, but you'll see reports out there, and probably credibly so, of folks that'll say that it'll shoot MOA. I don't doubt it, just my example here doesn't. So.
And this is a 5.56.
It is. And the factory mags, there's a couple different configurations they've come in. This one here has the greenish tint. They also came in like really clear, but the Polish folks found that the really clear ones weren't as durable. So these ones did much better. There's a ton of drop test data on them, and even though they're not metal reinforced, they've actually done quite well, which is shocking for AKs. But if you find one of these guns, they do also take the Circle 10 mags, so you can buy those. You can find these available. They're not cheap, but they will work interchangeably.
You know, I really love those guns, and it's funny, not too long ago I kind of got on a bit of an AK kick and just, you know, trying to buy some of the random AKs that I never really, you know, had access to. And it's funny, I was talking to Tim at Military Arms Channel about it.
Yep.
And also like, hey, you know, where are these Polish barrels at? You know, and you'll see them at, like he said, they're called Archers as well. But those guns are so neat, and that's one that unfortunately I was never able to pick up when they were available, and unfortunately they're probably not ever going to be available again. So it's one of those things like you wish they'd bring them in or import them or make them again. It is such a cool AK variant. A very modern take on the AK, which is fun. Absolutely.
And a couple of years ago, I mean like 2 or 3 years ago, you could find these for, if you search the internet and did your part,
maybe?
Under 1,000. Yeah, you'd see them for 900, something like that. But today, try to find one of these for $2K and you'd be doing well. So yeah, the price has just skyrocketed because, as the theme of this video, they're just not coming in anymore.
That's right.
So
that's definitely number 1. So we're going to move on to number 2. This is another gun that I love very, very much. And I don't own one yet, but when he pulled this out, I was like, well, yeah, that's definitely on the list.
Absolutely. So this is a Colt Python, 357 Magnum Revolver. Of course, these came in a ton of variants. Colt made these for years, decades. The bad thing is they don't make them anymore, as, again, the theme of the video.
Yeah.
But in terms of just a well-made, solid-feeling revolver, they're as good as anything out there. They're all hand-fit, each one of them. So while it was like a basic gun that Colt offered, each one of them was essentially a custom gun.
That's semi-production.
Correct. So all the internal parts are hand fit, and when you feel it, when you feel this action, I mean, it's insane. They're so nice. They're just, in terms of semi-production guns, I guess you could say, probably the nicest revolver I've ever felt. Yeah,
so Colt had a whole bunch of different revolver models. If you guys are familiar with the silhouette of this gun, it has a very distinct silhouette and shape to it. The hammer definitely has a very, very distinctive spur on the back in terms of the way it's shaped and the length of it. Also, Colt made a bunch of these different revolvers in different configurations. They had a gun called the Diamondback. They made one called the Anaconda. They made one called the Lawman Mark III. And they were all basic variants of this type of idea, but obviously just not quite as well fitted and everything. The Python represents the apex of the Colt revolver line. And these things are just beautiful. I mean, the bluing is excellent. The fit and finish is excellent. They're very accurate. And man, just you can't beat a Python.
I mean, they really can't. And this one here is a 4-inch model. The 4 and the 6-inch models seem to be the most common, but from what I've seen price-wise, the 4-inch models like this one do seem to bring probably the most.
Oh, they're all expensive. I mean, you know, the thing is, and the weird thing is, Colt has been reissuing all these random guns, and I don't want to get too far off on a tangent, but it is related to this video because this is a gun that a lot of people would love to see, you know, Colt come back out with, but I don't think you're ever going to see it because, one, the people that used to make those guns are probably long gone by now, okay, and then two, the amount of training and expertise and knowledge that it would take to train up a bunch of people to make these guns again would be exponentially just crazy. And three, the amount of money they would have to charge for it. Okay, so if an original, genuine article piece is $3,000 or $4,000 in some cases, what are they going to have to charge for a new made one? And that's if the new made one can even be as good as the original.
And if I may, Colt also has laid off their custom shop folks, I believe as of last year, that used to actually do these. So every now and then they'd make a one-off run of like a single action or something like this, and those people don't exist anymore. Well,
see, people think that there's not a demand for a gun like that, but I disagree. I think there is. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that love those guns. And you look at things like The Walking Dead, and you know, Rick uses a Colt Python. In fact, in many of the episodes, what do you end up hearing? Colt Python. Like, people know the Colt Python. When, you know, a lot of people, when they think like big, scary, I don't know, powerful revolver. I mean, look at like the Resident Evil franchise when you look at video games. What was Barry's revolver in Resident Evil? A Colt Python. Right. So to the point that it was called a Colt Python in the game. So it's one of those things where it's just such an iconic revolver. So many people love it.
It is, and that top rib, like Eric talked about, there are other revolvers that have that. That's absolutely true, but it's such a distinctive feature that really does, it gives it a unique look, which is probably why it's so popular in video games and movies and stuff like that. Several different variants or different lines in the Colt line, like you talked about. Also, there's a Cobra model. I did a review on that a few years ago, but those are nice, but if you shoot them back to back with this, there's no comparison. It might be hard to relay it through the camera here, but I can tell you in person, you would know the difference immediately.
This is a gun that we wish would be made again, but you know, some things, you know, you're just never going to beat the old original classic, and the Colt Python's one of those examples, guys, of, you know, that day is gone, and if you want one, you just have to shell out the bucks and get them. So. And
it's good money.
Oh, it is. It is. So we're going down the line. All right, now here's a gun that, this is one of my favorites, and we've showcased this rifle on the channel several times. This is a Romanian Psl, and this one was produced at the Untitled factory in Romania. And a lot of people mistaken this rifle for a Dragunov. It is not a Dragunov. It's basically an FPK style receiver, which essentially is a large caliber RPK, more or less. And it's basically a big AK. The PSL is a truly just a big AK. There's really no other way to put it than that. Uses a 10-shot box. It has a Dragunov-like appearance. A lot of people mistaken it as that. I remember when these guns used to be $600. Yeah. And if I would have had a credit card with a high enough limit, I would have bought 10 of them when I could afford to buy them for that price. Because now you're not going to touch these things for under $2 for a good one.
No. No,
especially a legitimate Untitled produced gun, not a parts gun. Right. This is a military produced gun.
Yep, and the magazines for these as well, the tooling doesn't exist anymore. They destroyed it. So they're not going to make any more of them. If you guys can find mags, like I haven't looked lately, but the last time I looked, they were going for around $50. But in 10 years, they're probably going to be a lot more.
I remember when you could buy mags for this gun for like $19 a piece. They were so cheap.
I have one of these as well. I have the exact same gun.
They are wonderful guns, and it's one of those guns that, you know, it's really one of those examples where people say, oh, well, I wish they would make this gun again. They really can't. I mean, like you said, the tooling, you know, it's just, there's no substitute for the actual genuine article of this rifle, and it's a supply and demand. Now, there are parts kits out there. Yeah. If you're a savvy guy and you know how to build AKs, or if you go with somebody like Chase up at Definitive Arms that does really good work, yeah, you can take a parts kit and build it in a receiver and you can build the gun. Yes, you can. But it's not the genuine article. It's not the actual, you know, Untitled produced military gun, which will never be made again.
Absolutely. And you know, the furniture on these is so unique, gives it such a cool style. It has the reinforced front trunnion, of course, due to the 7.62x5.4R round, so it'll sling some power out there at some distance. You know, these, a lot of people will think these are sniper rifles. They're not, and they were never intended to be. They're sort of designed in the DMR type of roll. So it's to give a lot of firepower and be able to reach out further than the AK can, but it's not looking at for like precise fire at 1,000 yards. That's
the intended purpose of these guns was always just to close the gap between machine guns and just standard AKs and other small arms, like to kind of provide a little bit more accurate man-portable. I mean, a guy can take this gun and go hide in a ditch and pin down troops out in the open or even undercover while the machine guns do the heavy work or whatever, okay, or while your troops move up and advance. So it was always intended as kind of like before DMR was even a term.
Right.
That was kind of like their thinking there, is to put a few of these in each squad, and then you got a guy that can poke out to a little bit longer distance than the rest of the regular infantry guys could.
Absolutely. And another point, not to just get too much into this gun, but this reticle on this scope is the forefather of a lot of BDC scopes that we all know in America today. So the ranging capabilities it has, this was one of the first optics to have that type of capability. The auto ranging, the holdovers, all that stuff.
Simple but effective.
Yep.
Guys, we've shot this gun out to 600. We have a video, and the gun actually works pretty well, even with military ammo. Not even using match grade ammo. These things will generally feed whatever you can put in them. So, guys, that's another gun that a lot of people wish was still made. I mean, if you go on and you try to find an actual SVD, you're going to spend between, depending on the make and model and where it's made, anywhere from $5 or $6 grand on up to, in some cases, $12,000, $14,000 for one gun. These guns now are bringing, over $2 grand in some cases. This specific gun would probably be over $2 grand.
Oh yeah, absolutely. With the optic, and I haven't seen an SVD below $5,000 in a long time.
Right, and if it is one under 5,000, it's like a Tiger in 308. Like Collector doesn't want the 308; they want the 54R.
Right.
Now they did do some of these guns in 308, and they're actually not as common as these are. But if you're a collector, you're into combat weaponry, you're not going to pay premium coin for a 308 caliber gun like this. You're going to want the 54R caliber, just because it's kind of the most original article there.
Absolutely.
So, that's a neat gun. We're going to move on now. You guys know that that Remington bought H&R, and since that acquisition occurred, you have not been able to get brand new made H&Rs anywhere. If you want an H&R handy rifle or any type of small single shot shotgun or rifle, I know it's kind of a weird point. When you look at all these really fancy and expensive things we have on the table here, this represents a gun that they're like $250. I mean, they're not that much money. But I think that's a huge kind of hole in the industry that's being left, like a void there, because these H&Rs are so much fun, and they're an example of a gun you can just take out and just have fun. You can get them, you used to be able to get them in a variety of different rifle calibers, shotgun gauges. This one's a 10 gauge. They don't make this 10 gauge shotgun anymore. And sometimes it's fun to just grab a little $250 shotgun, cut the barrel down, throw some Cerakote on it, and it's just a fun gun to take out and just shoot and just really, it's a utilitarian, inexpensive way for somebody to really become a gun owner. So what if somebody doesn't have $1,000 to spend on a gun? The H&Rs represented a way that somebody could take a few $100, go in and buy one, and you've got a brand new rifle. Yeah, it's a single shot, but they're accurate, they're very well made, and unfortunately, H&R, I mean, from everything I've been able to tell, they don't make these guns anymore.
Yep. And where I shoot is out in the country, and there's a kid that lives in the neighborhood, and he is always walking behind in the field. Sometimes he's actually been to some of my videos, but he has one of these, I think it's in 20 gauge, and he's like, well, probably now he's probably 14 or 15, but when I started doing videos out there, he was probably like 12. And his parents would just let him go wild in the woods with a little 20 gauge single shot, and he'd be out there looking for whatever he could find. So
that's right.
And that's kind of the beauty of it, because like you said, it's cheap, it's inexpensive, but they work.
Yep.
And
if you're in a deer stand and it falls out of a deer stand and cracks the stock in half, well, guess what? Yeah, you broke the stock, but you're only out a few $100. Whereby, if it's something more collectible, these guns represent a way for somebody to become a gun owner without having to spend a ton of money. And I think that's a void that's being left. Now, to speak of that void, all right, I mean, you look at Henry, for instance. Henry is now making their single-shot rifles, single-shot shotguns. That's no coincidence. I mean, they probably realized that, hey, H&R isn't making these things anymore, so maybe we need to get in and try to fill that void in the market. So now you see that Henry's making their single-shot shotguns and rifles. I mean, so I like the H&Rs quite a bit as well. The Henrys aren't bad, but man, there's just something about the H&Rs that is so cool, and they're just so neat. And I wish they still made them, but unfortunately, you're probably not ever gonna. I mean, knowing Remington and the way they screw the pooch sometimes on certain projects, like why would they not why would they shut down H&R? Like,
I don't know. Why would Remington make 870 Expresses that don't run right either? I don't know. But they have.
Well, you know what the funny irony of that is that the only H&R that you can buy now are those like Chinese import shotguns. They're like 870 copies.
Yep.
Why would Remington do that?
Right, it's like 982s or whatever.
What in the heck?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the rant's over there. But I wish H&R still made shotguns and rifles because they're excellent. And without getting too much on the tangent, one thing about H&Rs that's cool too is there's so many like aftermarket options that you can do. Like there's gunsmiths that can make custom barrels for these H&Rs, and you can chamber them in some really stupid powerful cartridges, and it's so fun. Like if somebody just wants a single shot big bore rifle, there is no better way than to have like an H&R and get it custom barreled and get it chambered in something really cool.
Absolutely.
So that, in my opinion, man, it just sucks these things aren't out there anymore. All right, so going down the line, this is number 5. Now every 5 guns video has a wild card. I guess we did kind of just already lay them out here, but that's okay. This is something I've been saying a long time, guys. Now, I know some people are probably going to give me some flack over this, but one of my favorite bolt-action sporting rifles that are out there, this type of rifle, I love the Ruger M77 Mark-all-Weather. This is actually one of the first bolt-action guns that I ever bought. I bought this gun the day I turned 18, and I've had it ever since. And I love this rifle. It's accurate. I love the all-weather stock, the boat paddle stock, the skeletonized Ruger logo in there. It's lightweight. This stock is made out of a substance called Zytel, and it's basically it is a glass reinforced polymer, and it's very lightweight. It's very strong, and I like these rifles a lot. I've always been a big fan of them. I've always liked them. They hold a zero great. They're just wonderful guns. And I like the integral sling swivels because you can go to a surplus store and you can buy a $4 dang AR sling and put it on there. You don't have to buy a bunch of fancy, bull crap to go on there. You just buy a little sling and go. So all my Mark II all-weathers, I've got 2 of these guns. I got one in 7.62 by 39 and this one's a 2.23. But all my all-weathers have just a little AR sling on it.
I laughed when he held it up because I actually didn't notice this before. But he has a BSA scope on there, and he said this was the first gun he ever bought.
Yep.
First scope I ever bought was a BSA as well.
I've never had any reason to pull it off because it holds a 0.
Right.
But then again, I haven't had to I haven't had to change anything.
Right.
It just stays 0.
So I don't know where my BSA is. It's somewhere in a parts bin, but it was the first scope I ever bought too, so it's good. But all weather, I really like that as well. The ability to be out there in the woods, go hunting, raining, and not have to clean the gun as soon as you get back because you're going to worry about it rusting. That's huge.
I really, really wish that Ruger still made this gun. Now, they do make an all-weather. I mean, you can buy, I think it's their Hawkeye, which is essentially the new age version of this particular gun. But, they make their Hawkeye, and it comes with you can get a synthetic stock. But, man, I just always thought that this was such a classy move. I just love the class of these guns. They're just neat.
And the action on those, the M77s, is just, it's one of the most proven
ever.
Ever.
I always like the control feed of the bolt and everything. Yep. I know this one may not necessarily fit this video because you technically can buy a Ruger all-weather, but man, I'm telling you, like 30, 40 years from now, people are going to look back on these guns and they're going to be just like the nylon 66s. Mark my word. What is it about that Remington nylon 66? Everybody loves those things because they're so cool and they're just so nostalgic and neat. And I think this gun is going to fall into that category. 30, 40 years from now, people are going to look back and go, man, I should have bought one of those guns when I could afford it because these things would be super expensive.
And it's the same with the materials.
You heard it here.
It's the same thing, too. It's the materials. They just don't make them the same like the nylons.
Right.
Same thing.
All right, so this is the last gun. This is number 6. I was showing this to Mike earlier, and at first he was kind of like, what is that, a Kel-Tec or something?
All I saw at first, in my well, just to make excuses, I guess, all I saw was the handguard at first. And then when he turned it and I saw the profile, what I actually said to him is I was like, man, the last time I saw one of those was Tim from Military Arms had one. And apparently this is it.
I bought it.
It's the same gun.
I bought it from Tim.
But yeah, these rifles, first, I guess if somebody doesn't know what it is, what is it?
Yeah, this is a Robinson Arm M96. Yep. And, Robinson still makes a bunch of neat guns. They're still in business. But this is a rifle they don't make anymore. And from what I understand, they weren't terribly successful. I think that there were plans to do like, you know, these things originally, in case you don't know, it's basically a semi-auto produced version of the Stoner 63.
Correct.
And, you know, the Stoner was a really neat modular weapon that was used in Vietnam by Navy SEALs, Special Forces. I mean, they loved them. And they were light and handy. They had a belt-fed kit that they could put on this gun originally. You could have it in this configuration. They also offered like a Bren feed configuration with a top feed magazine. So this thing could literally be configured in a variety of different setups for the mission at hand, depending on what it was. Now, Robinson was going to produce, I think they might have produced a handful of Bren feed versions of the magazines. You know, basically you pull these pins and this the mag well can be relocated to different parts of the gun depending on the configuration. Now, they were going to produce a belt-fed kit to go with this gun, which would have been really cool. Because, you know, for people that are fans of the original Stoner 63, that would have been a really awesome thing to have with this. But this one just takes a standard, you know, Stanag magazine.
Yep. And the Stoner 63s, for those who have never fired them, it's one of the best balanced guns ever. The way that just the impulse from it keeps the gun on target so easily. I mean, it's almost comical. You could pretty much, if you could hold it with one hand, you could fire it with one hand. It's a little heavier than that.
And, you know, really, I will say it, Robinson put a lot of work into these guns, and they're unfortunately very, very, very expensive and very difficult to locate. All of the flats and stamp components on this gun are made out of stainless steel, and the finish is melanite, so it holds up really well. So all the metal components on this gun are melanited, which is awesome. These guns do utilize a quick change barrel system, which, now think about the features that this gun has versus the M16s that were being fielded in Vietnam.
Right.
I mean, this gun was the Cadillac compared to the M16. M16 is not a bad gun, but the reason the M16 went the way that it did was really more political than anything else. It was a political decision. It was a big business, big government decision. It wasn't what the soldiers wanted, really. I mean, most soldiers back then wanted to stick with the M14, and then a lot of soldiers that were didn't want to be pried away from their Stoner 63s. These things are great.
And kind of a modern analogy to the way it feels when you fire it is if you've ever fired a CZ Bren 805, in terms of like the smoothness of the action, that's the same way. It's just, it's butter smooth on the recoil impulse. It's an impressive firearm. You
know, Chad mentioned it before. It looks like a baby M60.
It does.
You know, it has like that kind of scaled down M60
especially
look.
at the handguard.
This is a gun I wish they still made, but I don't think we're ever going to see any more of these particular guns. A lot of the firearms that are on this table, unfortunately, are probably never going to be made again. But in light of this video, we can wish that they were.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what we're at here.
But just imagine what it would cost to do the stamping on that gun today in 2017. I mean, it would be crazy.
They have to have the tooling.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because the demand wasn't there, or if it just wasn't commercially successful, or they didn't sell enough of them. There had to be some financial, like, underlying reason why they stopped making this particular gun. Probably just lack of demand. Another interesting point about the Stoner 63 is that all of the actual Stoner 63 machine guns that are in the United States, I want to say like 85% of them are owned by one guy.
Right. Knight.
Yeah. So he like cornered the market on them. So the thing is, when you corner the market on something that hard, okay, let's just say you're one of those guys that is just lucky enough to be able to have the sum of money required to buy an actual Stoner 63.
Sure.
Well, you're going to have to pony up a considerable amount of money, because chances are, if you do buy one, you're going to have to buy one from that guy, and he's going to be able to name his price because he has them all.
Right.
So, you know, just the fact, even just having the semi-auto to me is so neat. I don't have to have the real one, but I don't know. It's just one of those guns that, in my opinion, is a niche gun that not a lot of people know exists, so it just makes it really obscure.
It is awesome. As soon as he turned it and I realized it wasn't a Kel-Tec, I got excited. So
yeah, you know, awesome. It's different stuff. So there's our 6 guns, but there's top 5 guns that we wish you know, companies would make again. Realistically, are they ever going to make any of these again? Probably not, unfortunately. But in terms of the reasons that we chose these guns is because I feel that some of them could possibly be in the ballpark of being produced again. These are the most hopeful out of all the ones we chose. I mean, I could have obviously chose, oh, well, I wish they'd make Mauser broom handles still. Or I mean, there's a million and one guns that we wish were still around.
Absolutely.
But these are the ones that are closest to being a reality that could still be around. So that's kind of why we chose them. Guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Mike, thanks for being on the channel.
Hey, thank you, man. Thanks for having me down here.
You're the man. I appreciate it. And, you know, we've actually had Mr. Guns and Gear down here doing some filming, so we thought we'd have him in a 5 guns. Guys, stay tuned. We're going to have a lot more videos of Mike. We're going to get out and 50 cal some stuff.
Yes, we
That'll
are.
be on your channel, though.
Yep.
So be expecting some videos on his channel with, you know, little old me in there having a little fun, and then you'll be seeing Mike on the channel a little bit more. Guys, thank you for watching today's video. Many more videos on the way. We'll catch you next time.